Have you been wondering whether Elementor is really as great as they say at building awesome WordPress pages? Well, in this video, I'm going to build a homepage from scratch that looks really awesome and show how you can do it in under half an hour. Let's jump right in. In this video, we're going to take a look at reproducing a very nice homepage using the Elementor plugin, one of the great WordPress plugins that's been produced in the last year. This is a page builder plugin, drag and drop, easy to create pages, posts, content, really great looking stuff. So this is Ashford and Ashford, a company in the US somewhere. I have no idea who they are. I just picked it off the web as a good looking homepage to try to reproduce. I'm not going to reproduce it exactly. I'm just going to make a sort of 80-90% reproduction. Otherwise we could be here all day. This is still going to take a little while. But if you want to see what this plugin is capable of, or how to make the most use of this plugin to create some really good looking designs, then this video is going to do that for you right now. So this is a reproduction I did before I started just to prove that I could do this. So this is approximately what we are going to create, and let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is create a full width section on the top. And in Elementor, to edit the section settings, you have to click this little guy up here. I find it a little bit annoying, that particular thing, and Thrive Content Builder or Architect, the new version, if you've used that, has the same kind of problem. Some of these icons are a bit fiddly, but anyway, that's probably one of the few shortcomings of all of these plugins. So we click this little guy here, and then we add a background image using the standard background type, and I've already uploaded the backgrounds from the website. I have borrowed them and we are going to reuse them right now. And the first thing we want to do is go back to the elements in the top right here and grab a heading element, and I'm going to borrow the content from here just to make my life a little bit easier, which is one of the reasons I did this before we started. And what we want to do is we want to make this typography. We open that up here, and I think we go for about a 50 pixel size, and we use the Railway font. That's the closest I could find to this particular website. They're using one called Novell, which is probably a paid one, so I'm not going to use that. And we want to center this text and make it white. So 3 Fs will make it white, and we want to change the line height a little bit and the letter spacing a little bit as well. And then we're just going to go and center that. And if we have a look, that's more or less correct. We want a bit more spacing of the letters. And we would probably want to actually make this piece of content a little bit less wide to get it looking exactly the same, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. We're going to move on to the next element, which in some cases you would add an icon to reproduce these 2 dots here they have above their headings, but I'm actually just, they've used a picture, so I'm going to copy exactly what they did so that you can see how that works. So we want to grab a picture, and then you get this huge thing in Elementor. It's very strange just to create this tiny picture. And we want to create a little bit of a margin below the picture. And then we want to put another picture below it. And I would have copied the other one, but I actually want to put the margin below in this case, or above in this case as well. So copying would have been just as much work. So as you can see, now we have more or less the heading. We want to put a bit more margin below the element, let's say 70, because as you can see there's quite a bit of spacing between the heading and the other elements, the borders and so forth. So we want to reproduce that, and we want to get also a margin above here while we're at it. Let's put in 50. It's probably a little bit more. Now what we want to do is actually create the navigation. So we're going to get a 2-column element. and put it on the top here, and it seems to not want to allow me to do that. So I'm actually having to rearrange these things. Some of these page builders are a little bit finicky sometimes, very powerful, but sometimes they don't do exactly what we want. So we have the two columns. I'm going to change the spacing because we're going to have a logo in one and a menu in the other. So you can do that manually with the columns here, which is really cool. And we're going to throw an image in here for the logo and grab the logo, put that in there, and then we're going to go back and grab a menu. I'm not sure where that is. I'm going to use the cool filter function, WordPress navigation, and I'm going to choose the main menu. Actually, maybe it was the other menu type. That one's not working, so let's delete that. And let's do menu again. It was maybe one of the pro elements. The main menu, and I'm going to align it to the right. And then I want to get the style of the text to white. And that's good to go. And then we want to change the typography, maybe do a little bit less weight. We want to get the font family to railway again. If I can spell, excuse my spelling. And we want to change the text there. So that's pretty similar. We want to space them out, the elements. So if we go back to the menu content, and there is an alignment section here somewhere, if I can find it. The horizontal padding of elements, there we go. And maybe we also need some letter spacing. That's pretty similar, yeah? Good job. Okay. So the next section we want to add is the red section of 3 columns, which you can see here. But actually I'm going to just add 1 column because you can use a repeat column operation, which is really nice, like a copy in Elementor, and we can make the 3 columns a lot faster that way. So I'm going to make 1 column, but first I'm actually just going to add in the section and my heading. So let's bring in a heading element. And we've got to quickly style that to what we want, which is white, which we won't be able to see once we've done it. And then we want to do the typography, the family. We want to take the railway family again. And the weight I'm going to take down to 400, and the size I'm going to make to 24, actually 36 I believe it was. And then I've measured some of these from the website, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit. So you can't see that heading because it's white on white. But what I'm going to do now is go to the section and add a background, which is this little classic background here. And I'm going to add this little red wavy element, which is actually a red background. And it's going to repeat itself across the columns until it creates a full background. So you can see it looks like a full background, and you can see on the left hand side that it's a wavy, very small element. It's only 23 pixels wide. But if you go to the original, you can see they have this kind of wavy dotted red background, which kind of looks cool. So you do that by just creating a little element that's repeatable. You can often download these on the web, and it makes a nice alternative to a plain background. So we want to change this heading to facts and stats. It doesn't look exactly the same as the original because, as I said, we don't have exactly the font that these guys are using. And now below that, we want to add in some columns. So let's add in the stuff we want. So we want to put in an image, and I've pre-uploaded all the images which I've borrowed from their website, and I've actually just done a screenshot of them because they're actually animations on their website, which is really difficult to reproduce, so I didn't want to do that. And we're going to actually just borrow this and use it as the heading below here, but we need to go in and remove the margin because we don't want any, and I want it to be a 24 pixels, and I'm going to copy the text. So it's quite easy to edit a lot of stuff in Elementor. Everything is in its place. You've got all the different styles and everything separated out, advanced style and so forth. So the main properties that you'll find, just while I'm doing this you can kind of watch, but the main things you do for an element are on the first panel, and then the second and third panel have the more standard alignments, colors, that kind of stuff. Usually that's how it's set out in Elementor, so that's just so you can find what you're looking for. And then now we need the standard piece of text, so we use the text editor, and I'm going to again grab this text that I've already made just to make this a bit faster. And then we want to get out of there and go to the style again and the color, and I want a kind of quite a black color and left align. That's all good, and that's pretty much all we need. So now what we want to do, actually, we want to take this column and we want to reproduce it twice, and then we want to actually delete this column, which seems, oops, I'm still learning Elementor a little bit. I haven't been using it as much as maybe some of you guys have been doing. We can also put in a bit more of a columns gap. So that we can kind of reproduce the look and feel, and I'll just quickly change these pictures so you guys can see that it looks a bit more like the original. I'm not going to change all of the headings and everything. Some of these pictures are not the right sizes, so that's why everything's not aligned. You should have the same size picture to make sure the heading is aligned below it, which looks a bit off. And we want to actually format these columns and put some margin. You always want to put adequate padding below everything so it looks spaced out. I think they have quite a big amount of padding. So you can see here we've done that pretty quickly. The next section is another picture with 2 columns and a heading. So again, relatively easy to do. 2 columns. Let's put the picture behind it. It makes things easier to see. And it is the second house picture here we have. And then we want to put in some text and then a contact button. These guys have some text. Maybe we can copy that. Let's see if that works. And then let's just put in a text element in here. Change that to their text. And it's a little bit bigger, the text, and it's centered. So let's do the text, should be in white, and I want to change the font size a little bit, and then we want to center it, which is more or less what they have. They have a kind of a slightly thinner font. You could actually reduce that in Elementor. You can go into the weight and maybe do a 300, and then I think they may have a slightly, I mean they have a different font anyway, as you know. I think it's slightly smaller than 20. It's probably 16 or 18. You can quickly change that. That's about right. And then we want the column with a picture and the button. So let's go back and grab an image. I've downloaded their little image here on the left. So you can see now we have the image. We might want to make that image a little bit smaller, maybe. It's a little bit big, or put some more spacing on the text, but I'm just going to leave that for now. The next thing we want is the button, so we just drag that in, and then we have to align the button. It is actually center aligned. If we look here, it's center aligned, quite big. Well, actually, we're going to have to custom pad that button to get that width because Elementor can't produce one, but let's just say contact us, which is what they have, and we're going to make this a medium-sized button, and we're going to add an icon of a right arrow. I want the right angle actually, and we want to put that after and put a little bit of space there. And it would be nice to be able to make that a bit bigger. You would have to do that in some custom CSS, which Elementor Pro gives us access to. We have a custom CSS here. I could custom CSS this little arrow here to make it exactly like these guys have, which is quite large. But I'm not going to do that because you guys should be drinking coffee or on a beach in Bermuda somewhere maybe. So what I want to do is actually make some more padding. I think it's on the text element. Oh, and it's just deleted all my padding. So we want to put 10 on the top, 10 on the bottom, and let's say 80 on the right and 80 on the left. So that's about right. It's a little bit bigger than that, I think. And then I want to make the background color a red color. It's gone black for some reason. Give me red, fully bright red. Good to go. And now we want to go back to the columns again, pressing this funny little thing over here, and we want to do some padding. Remember, we want the inside to be padded, not the margin which goes on the outside of the section. So we probably want a bit more than that. And actually the background picture of this is, let's put some more in there. Let's put 80, not 480, 80 and 80. And there's something wrong with the picture. So we want the picture to be positioned top center. That's good. We want the picture to be cover or contain. Contain, cover. So I've got some problem with the picture there. I didn't have that problem on the one I produced here, so I'm not sure what I've done wrong. I think my picture is maybe the wrong size. So let's delete it and import it again. Sometimes they get imported at stupidly small sizes, and that's not the problem. I don't know what the problem is. Stretch, no. I would have to have a look at that. That's really annoying. Center top, attachment, repeat, border, shape. I don't know what the issue is there. That's a bit strange. But anyway, let's leave that and move on to the next one, which is some testimonials. These guys have some quite big testimonials. I'm just going to make a very simple copy of that. They also have a wavy grey background here. I'm just going to use a plain grey background, standard section. Actually, more or less the grey we have now is good. So I'm going to throw in a testimonial carousel, which is again part of Elementor Pro. And you could sort of tune this a little bit. It's more or less correct. You want to probably add some more padding to the top, just to space things out again. And we maybe want to have some slightly better stuff on the text. I can't remember where that is. You can change the content of each one. You can change the typography here. We could change it to our standard font that we're using, which is Railway, although I don't know whether it is actually. And you can change the line height. That's actually the title. The content probably has its own typography, which is here. And we could make this a bit bigger with the slider. No, that's the other one. I'm on the name now. I'm getting lost. Name, title, content. Thank you. So we want to make that maybe a bit bigger, like these guys have. You could space out the line height, which is the lines between the testimonials. Try and make it a bit more like what they have. And we could change the color to be black. We could put a heading on top of that. See if I can do that without causing any problems. We want to center that heading, make it white. Oh no, we don't want to make it white, we want to make it quite dark. And then we're going to change it to testimonials, can I spell? And then they've got two little pictures next to it, which you would have to use 3 columns for, or some very complicated CSS. And we're going to change the typography of that to railway and font 300, no, 400 weight. And let's put a margin or padding above it, doesn't really matter at this point. So that's more or less what these guys have. It's a little bit blacker, a little bit thicker. We need to change that. But let's move on to the last section, which is 2 columns with a very dark background, a very black background. So I'm going to, oops, it's not an image, excuse me, it's a color, and it's a very black color. The footer with the contact us, kind of a blacky blue color actually. Could change that a little bit. And then what do we have in there? We have a form and we have some text. So let's just copy this text again, something really easy to do in Elementor. The text goes in here. It's actually a whole bunch of stuff about their name and their location with images. I'm not going to go through all of that because it's just little fine details and it's not going to help you a lot. You just have to have 2 little columns with an image, little red dot, or you could use a list element. I would potentially use a list with an icon, maybe something like that. To do that, let's just quickly see if we can find the list. Actually, I haven't played with this one. And then you can edit each of these lists. Actually, let's delete that and see if we can change the typography. I want to increase that a bit, size, change it to white, and we want to change all of the icons. So you would need to edit those and just maybe make them a dot or something, and you need to do that to all of them. And then you could put in the name and the phone number and all of that stuff and make it into links, which you would have to do in here, turn that into a link, because you want to have your phone number and your email as links. You use the tel : for phone numbers and the mail to : for emails when you're creating Ahref links. So now that we have that, we could actually center that element and we could make the icons red. To make it a little bit more realistic. What else do these guys have? They have a heading. So let's just quickly grab one of these white headings and drag that. Scrolling is a little bit fiddly, and we could have that to contact us. I think they have written there, contact information. We need to sort of scale that a little bit and whatever, but let's just leave that like that for now. You guys get the idea. The next thing we want to do is to put a form element in another Elementor Pro element. And how have they done it? They've actually got no labels, and we can do that in the form. We can remove the labels and we can change the background of the fields to a very dark color, which is how they have it. Very, very dark in their case. I'm going to go even darker. And then how do they have the labels? They have the actually they have the labels above. So the labels are, so I'm going to leave it like that anyway. That's not too far. They've got, it's a little bit narrower. Then we can style the button. We make the background color a red color. It's a bit of a bug there. The red seems to go green, and then we need to go back to the columns and do our usual padding on the top of 60. I'm just guessing 60 to sort of do what they have. They have a contact us heading as well, which I'm not going to do. And then they also have a single image element. So I'm going to go and see if I can squeeze in another set of columns in here without breaking anything. I seem to have trouble doing this. So I'm going to have to actually add it in here. And we don't need 2 columns, I just want to put an image element in here. And then we have their seal. I believe that's their seal. You can't see it because it's a PNG. And we want to left align that. And then we want to put a huge negative margin on it, which moves it outside of an element. So watch this. This is really cool. Let's do minus 100. Minus 150, and then we're going to actually have to add some margin in here to align these elements together. It's not exactly what they have, but it's pretty close. So you see this seal goes across there, and you can see it over the grey. That's really cool. That's a negative margin effect you can use when you want to align things outside of their normal place. Things sit in standard places and you can move them outside of that using negative margin, or absolute positioning is another thing you can do. It's actually a little bit too big. Let's go with 130, 120, something like that. And you can even move it to the left with a negative left margin if that's what they have, because it's slightly off alignment. You can see here it's about 30% outside the left alignment. So there we go. One thing I forgot to do actually is to make this top section a parallax section, which you can do in here somewhere. I'm just trying to remember where I did that. Background, attachment, fixed. So now you can see the picture fixes, and you can also do it for this picture. If I could figure out how to fix this picture down here, then we could do it for that picture too, because that also scrolls. So there you go. Congratulations if you've been following along. We've now reproduced, more or less, we've got a few fine-tuning things to do, but we've reproduced a really good looking website in about half an hour. I don't know how long this video has been running. If you've been sticking with me, congratulations. Give it a thumbs up. And if you like all of this content, don't forget to subscribe, which is on the bottom right of this video, because I'll be doing more WordPress stuff, more Elementor stuff, and even Thrive Architect, which is a similar builder. You can watch how I do it there. It's almost exactly the same. You can look at some of those videos. And if you want to learn about SEO, I also have some really cool SEO videos to help you get ranked on Google fast, learn all the shortcuts, stop listening to all the blah, blah, blah out there. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.